Fuck that
Oh, what the
intro.
hell?
There I go.
Wow. We got to restart it.
Oh, we'll restart it.
Yes.
We don't have to restart it. I'll just come in live. Ready?
Let
3.
me try once more.
Okay.
Oh my!
All right, screw it.
Nothing's working.
Here we go. 3, 2, 1. What? Blah, 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 blah. Hey, everyone. How are you doing? Welcome to another episode of Burn and Return. How is everybody doing? We will be your hosts tonight. My name is Matt. Sometimes I go by the Grass Factor Martin. Alongside me, we have Ryan DeMay and Ray Ito. We were just kicking off our pre-show there. We're talking about some of the
Current
interesting
events.
instances, of current events and civil unrest and screen flashes, all kinds of chaotic things. Now we got the Sounders coming in. It is on fire right now. Look, just for historical documentation, in the event anything ever happens to me and my kids go back and listen to this to hear how insane of a nutbag their dad is, just note that today, we're recording this today, the day after the attempted assassination of former President Trump, which was, again, another one of those things that was just absolutely nuts to say the, add it to the list of chaos that has been the last 4 years, 5 years, we'll say. The last 5 years is another layer of chaotic insanity. And so anyway, a reprieve from the reality that is the 24-hour news cycle to talk about some of the things that actually directly influence our industry day in and day out. And we do have some geopolitical things that we're going to be covering. Actually, today is actually going to be a show that focuses more on geopolitics. And a lot of this is to let you know that some softer times are coming in our industry. But at the same time, I think what this also opens up is an acceleration of what's the word I'm looking for? A grouping, conglomerations to be formed. A reduction in the number of players in the marketplace due to consumption by larger companies, and I'll
Like the
kind of
Rothschilds turf?
of sorts. And there's some things like I can't talk about it yet until a press release comes out, but it is happening at a high scale, so involving like some larger co-ops. But I want to at least lay the groundwork today of what is going to lead to that. Now, as money becomes cheaper, and as of right now, it does look like money, the cost of money is going to be softening over time, and that's just according to economic data that we hear from Jay Powell and the powers that be. But in the event that does happen, I think we have the groundwork now to sort of accelerate that process, right? So anyway, we'll get to that. But before we get into that, gentlemen, first, I'm just curious. I'm hearing from you. How the hell are y'all doing?
Live. I guess, I thought of this today. It's unfortunate for one person really in this world that nobody's talking about, and it's Mike Tyson, because he is no longer the person well known for fucking up somebody's ear, probably in human history. So, Mike, it was a nice time at the top. I think it was 27 or so years, but it's all over now, bud. You're relegated to number 2. Time to go get another neck tat.
Yep.
He's got a face tat. He went above the neck, right? I can't remember.
No, yeah, I mean, yeah, it was all up and around here. I mean, it was without a doubt, it was intense. It was something else. Yeah. Ray, how are you? Did you hurt anybody this weekend? Did you beat up any door-to-door salesmen?
No, sir. I mean, this week was my exercise in being chill.
Good. We all need those.
Learning how to have some chill, literally.
There comes a moment in everyone's life where they have to practice their chill. It's
because you see, many years ago, Matt, you made a little remark or crack. I think it was on Discord or something, or maybe it was live, and then let's just say that it has come to pass. You said something and it literally came true.
Not often
Because
things that I say come true. So when they do, someone write that down, and I'll tell someone about it at some point because this is
it was
this is a
nothing
rare
horrible,
moment.
Matt. It was nothing. No, it was nothing horrible. Nobody died. Nobody got hurt. I didn't do anything, unspeakable to somebody. It was good.
Good. That
It
is
was
good.
all. It was all good, Matt.
With that, a couple things here. We'll do a little general housekeeping. One thing is that if you enjoy the content we produce and you want to show us a little love, by all means, check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/burn-in-return. Not only will you get to hang out with us and be the selector chooser of episode titles, like for instance on this show, and then we also do some additional content after show type unfiltered, unregulated chaos after our mainstream on Wednesday nights. And so anyway, if you're interested in checking that out, you can do so patreon.com/burn-in-return. It's fairly cheap, and it gives you a little insight, and plus it gives you access to a community of people that are probably in the same boat like you are. Just dudes. I think right now it is all dudes, but dudes who are interesting and I just trying to learn more, do better, be better, kind of sort of gig there. So it works out. It's a team effort. Everybody's on their own individual journey, and we get to share our own progress as we move through whatever topic that may be, and that's kind of the beauty of it. With that out of the way, let's check out this week's headlines. It worked.
Nothing to fear here.
This is just the news, and please understand, bear with me here. All four of these are kind of going to go together here, and I want to try and make a case for what exactly is going on. Number one, right now, we're going to talk about farm futures and why this is particularly important is that we have been in steep decline since our highs in 2022 in commodity prices, right? So corn, absolutely exploded, and now we're down. We're at $4. Current prices is somewhere around $4 a bushel. Why that is a problem is that at its current price and farther out, future, leaps into the future, are at a point that no farm is capable of being profitable anymore. And what what that means is that if you can file insurance, you're going to be filing a lot of insurance. We've had various sorts of conditions between drought and all kinds of other things. Cold snaps. Issues getting seed into the ground for various grains. And over the last few years, so you may not be able to file for crop insurance protection this year, and you're just going to have to eat your losses. Why that is particularly compounded and a problem is that coming off the record highs of what a lot of people did was they invested all that excess capital into either infrastructure, so that would be like silos, drain drying for storage, long-term storage, to be able to sell, lock in contracts at higher prices, hold it until they're due for fulfillment. And then also new equipment, right? Of course, there was a huge run on John Deere and Case and all new, combines, tractors, all that fun stuff. I mean, it was just at an unprecedented pace that all that was done. Well, in order to do that, everybody leverages your credit, right? And farms are very credit leveraging heavy users. They live and die by their credit. So what happens is that you become fully vested with your credit, extended in your credit, and then you have a huge steep downturn in commodity prices, and then you run up against a year where you can no longer be profitable, a $4 bushel, and then what happens, right? You can see where this turns sideways pretty fast, especially like in the event you do go try and take another loan or something. Interest rates are already so high it makes bearing the brunt of that loan and the repayment of it. All of a sudden, $1,000 a month payment is $1,500-$1,800 a month, and then is that cash flowable at this point moving forward. So anyway, it's a very, very touchy situation, and I'll be curious to see, especially as we get closer and closer to the election, come harvest time when these official numbers start coming in. Right now, they're calling for record harvest of corn. I think they're calling for 184 bushel an acre average across the U.S. Soybean is going to be way up there too. I think I'm seeing numbers like 57 bushel an acre. When all this comes time to harvest, and there's this plethora of inventory in the market, which, by the way, we are already sitting at record inventory being held right now, which I think the last number I heard was like 30 billion bushels or something is right now being held in inventory in the U.S. ready for sale. That's not going to help. And so a lot of times what we lean on for that to soften that supply demand ratio is going to be foreign exports, right? So anyway, we'll get around to that. One of the back things that is that ends up happening is that as grain commodity prices drop, well, what does that also mean? That means fertilizer prices also drop. So if we take a look at the fertilizer trends, retail fertilizer prices have continued to dump for the remainder of this year, dipping lower. We have anhydrous ammonia has continued to fall and is at a low, almost down to the point that it was around September of 2023, but we're definitely ahead of schedule. We're falling lower than we were in 2023 for the time being, and it did continue to dump. So we'll see how much lower it ends up going. Taking a look at some of the other products that are available, we have DAP that is continued to fall through the. It's remained steady since about May, but we're still down off this time last year, right, by almost $100 a ton. We have UAN 32, which is priced somewhere around where it was this time last year. But no, I'm sorry, is down from the highs of last year by about $50 a ton. Same with UAN 32 is down about $80 a ton from this time last year. Urea is down about $115, $110 a ton from this time last year. Potash, $110 a ton. MAP is oddly about the same price. MAP is one of the ones that does not seem to be moving at all. So phosphorus prices are remaining steady. But, when it comes to phosphorus availability in the United States, how many producers do we have? One. Do we import phosphorus? No. Why? It's tariffed. So much for free markets. Speaking of tariffs, one of the big things that happened under the Trump administration was tariffs. So this is what started the trade war with China, so to speak, and it kind of spooked people because we didn't really know what was going to pop out on the other side, right? You heard trade war, trade war, trade war, and so how that ended up shaking out was it was a lot of strong language and a lot of nerves. But the thought process is that when Biden got into office, it would soften it or it would go away. However, that did not happen. In fact, we did not loosen the tariffs. In fact, we expanded tariffs. So what we ended up doing is that we shifted not only from fertilizer, but we ramped up tariffs on steel that was coming out of China into the U.S. too. But that wasn't quite good enough. So what we actually did was we cranked up tariffs on steel on Chinese steel that was imported through Mexico. So just to make sure that we tackled all the steel possible, if China imported it to another country that we have a friendly trade relationship with, we went ahead and we tariffed that too. Just to make sure it got stuck. And why that is a particular issue. And again, I'm not going to debate economics over this, but I will say purely from free and open markets where that ends up, and I can tell you this from direct experience, is that who that ends up hurting are small businesses that are looking to try to compete against the large cash flush or large credit extended mega corporations. All right. So they have the cash flexibility, the lending capacity to be able to afford the specialized stainless steel that is manufactured in the United States, and that is a major hiccup there, right? Is that the United States production of steel has moved into more specialized stainless steel manufacturing and smelting, right? The lower grade, cheaper grades of stainless steel are no longer produced really at scale in the United States. One is because the profitability is not there. And two is a lot of it is due to climate pressure. It is a dirtier manufacturing process to produce the lower grade stainless steel. And so all that got shopped out to other countries that do not have the same stringent regulations on pollution and air quality that we do in the United States, right? So that's why you saw a lot of it go to like India, and some of it went to a lot of it went to China. Actually, the majority of it's produced in China. The thing is that not all industries in the United States require that grade of stainless steel. If you're working in pharmaceuticals, sure. If you're working in chip manufacturing, sure. However, if you're working in fertilizer or you're working in pet food or something of the sort, do you need that grade of material handling? If you're moving bottles from point A to point B, do you need that grade of material handling? Do you need that tight of machining? No, absolutely not. So if you're looking for like a small bottler because you want to launch your own brand of energy drinks or your own brand of beer or whatever the case may be, that's getting harder and harder to come by. That only larger and larger toll manufacturers are able to take that on because, the cost to install that is actually cost prohibitive. There's no such thing as a startup in that industry, just simply due to cost. And now with tariffs on the cheaper access to some of that manufacturing equipment, now it makes it even that much more difficult. Okay, so all that out of the case, that's kind of like the larger economic picture, right? So now, remember, I was talking about grain prices being, hoodooed there, and to the downside, and then on the side note is it, where do we lean on trying to move some of this if our supply gets overly backed up? Well, we rely on exports, right? And who is our number one export partner? China. Well, we just launched a whole new round of tariffs on China. And how do they answer? Well, they stopped buying grain from the United States. But what's interesting is that we're just looking here at the poultry site. China 2024 grain imports seen near record high, not from the United States. They're buying the holy hell out of grain out of Australia. They're buying the holy hell out of grain out of Brazil, out of Argentina. But out of the United States, they just made their first purchase of new crop soybean last week from the United States. That's it. That's it. So what happens and normally they are buying up millions and millions and millions of tons, 100 million tons of new crop soybean a year, and they've shipped it all of that away to other countries. And so it's increasing the rate at which we are sitting on more and more grain, right? So unfortunately, that's shifted pressure towards like the production of alcohol, right? So more and more ethanol is being subsidized to go into fuel to offset the overstock of inventory, right? You see how this all starts to play in with one another. Okay, now short term, long term, what does that end up meaning for us? Well, in the short term, what ultimately that ends up meaning is that, well, we do, this is the good thing is that, we do get softer fertilizer prices in the short term. Where this can turn into something negative in the long term is that with decreased competition and you get these agglomerated point source suppliers, is that it becomes easier to control pricing, right? Because there's less and less competition in the marketplace. So it's just something to keep a foresight on, especially rolling into the election cycle. I'm curious if either it's not a sexy topic, and I'll tell you this right now: there is no presidential campaign in the history of the world that wants to talk about doing anything not positive for the farmers. However, what I will be genuinely concerned about is come harvest time, is anyone going to start talking about bailing out farm? Are they going to do it in quiet? Or are they going to do it publicly? Are they going to make it part of their campaign? Or is it just going to be kind of a hush hush kind of sort of deal, right? So anyway, curious how all that shakes out. Guys, thanks for letting me rant on that and put together that whole story. But when you hear any of that, is there anything ticking off in your head? Are you concerned about anything? Do you notice any softening in any sectors of your individual markets. Because I'll say this right now, that without a doubt, there are certain segments of industries that we manufacture for that have softened a shit ton. There are other segments of industry that have expanded significantly. So I'll say that if it's typically a green energy play right now, that has skyrocketed. If it's actual industry, whether that be food industry or fertilizer industry, it has shifted away from commodity and more into specialty product manufacturing. And it looks like people are targeting higher margins, lower volume types of products than they are trying to move volume of product. That's at least what I notice.
I'd say that's all fair. I mean, I think it's one of those things that, as you know, it allows you to be more hand to mouth, right, with your production, all that stuff. And um, I think we saw that going back to COVID, going back to the farm though, the farm situation, right? Like the old adage is that when the economy's doing well, farmers do poorly, and when the economy's doing poorly, farmers do well. And I think what we're seeing is that, uh, you know, at least on the agriculture side, uh, between the credit tightening, between the shift, we'll call it, in foreign grain buying, and there's the shitstorm that's come through here with weather and crop production and everything like that. I think we're going to be at a crossroads, Matt, in 6 months here, because you're right. There's going to be a lot of people that aren't just hurting, but that are either dead flat ass broke if they don't get help. And so that's going to be a really, really tough pill to swallow, I think, in the face of probably what needs to happen fiscally and everything like that. But down at the level of people that we talk to, right, on the turf side, right, lawn care, sports turf, golf, all that kind of stuff, like nothing has changed. I actually had this conversation with like 5 or 6 different people, different parts of the country, and all allied within the industry in some way, shape, or form. And there's nobody that's saying, yeah, we got to be really careful. We got to tighten our belts a little bit. Things are slowing down. There's some headwinds here or there, everywhere. Not hearing it at all. So
I'll just interject to say the only place I have heard that even remotely close recently are mid-market distributors. And I mean mid-market, not hyper local, but are covering like 2 states, we'll say,
mhm.
or like a region of like, we'll say like 300 miles in circumference. So not hyper local, not big nationals, but that mid range. I have heard them for whatever reason. I don't know the answer to this, but I have heard more of that being required to tighten the belt than I have any other facet of the industry at all.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it could be a people thing, right? Just in terms of having more staff and expanding out to carry all the business the last 3 or 4 years, and now they're maybe a little overextended. I mean, hard to say. Hard to say.
Yep. When you come
Well,
off, record sales years, right? And then, you drop 18% in sales or whatever. And part of that can be made up in margin if it's there, but if you captured all that new business in commodity, you know, and commodities are falling and you're playing the inventory game and they're continuing to fall and you're holding higher and higher cost inventory, you can get upside down in your margins pretty quick. So I could say they probably have a little bit more buying power. We're buying a little bit larger volumes at a time with the anticipation of sitting on it. And then I'm just thinking out loud. I don't know this to be fact. I'm just thinking out loud. But anyway, I don't know. It's something to keep out. I will say this again for everyone that's out there. We should see over the next 12 months softening of fertilizer prices as this inventory is cycled through. I think everybody kind of saw a hair bit of a softening this year for just direct commodities. Where you may see an increased spike in costs is that there is tremendous pressure on the biosolid market. And this is one thing I can talk about confidently. I'm not going to say who, but I will say that at least that's coming through my door right now is everyone who is under the race to scale production of a biosolid alternative. And the reason why is the uproar over PFAS. It is not going away. That's not going anywhere. And it is, there has been a lawsuit currently, kind of the first of its kind in Texas, related to PFAS and wastewater treatment facilities and production of biosolids due to the concentrating effect that occurs with it. It's the first one that I'm aware of, and it is I don't know how that's going to shake out. But the people that I hear in the wastewater treatment facility that are hearing it are beginning to get really, really nervous about it. And then, of course, they have contracts with buyers of those biosolids. They're getting really, really nervous about it. And so everyone's kind of making sure that they're not the last one holding the bag on that. So if you don't see a softening in prices, a lot of times it's going to be the blender base that's going into it, because right now biosolids are at an all-time low of like free. In fact, I know one company, and I can't say where, I'll say that it's somewhere in middle America, is paying $120 a ton to dispose of biosolids right now. Paying $120 a ton to get rid of biosolids. And the route that they have opted to go is actually to have them incinerated and flared off, to try and, one, destroy the PFAS, two, the fluorine gas that ends up coming off of it too. So again, if you're looking at it from 12 months from now and you're like, I don't understand, my fertilizer blended bags have not gone down in price. Why? It's like, well, that biosolids that you used to use, well, it went away. There's a new filler in there, and that has a cost that probably was not in there before, right? So anyway, that's going to wrap up our headlines. How about we jump into everybody's favorite segment, and that is Joe Knows Turf.
Oof. Joe Knows Turf. Hi, I'm Joe. I'm gonna give you a bunch of accurate turf facts today, because Joe knows turf.
Joe most certainly does know turf, and when he's not working his wood, he's knowing turf. Well, today we're going to visit one of Matt's favorite places. He likes to give people north of the Mason-Dixon line shit that they live in Canada. However, today we are going to watch a video from a person that is actually from the country of Canada. All right. And this is a lawn care company that is talking to, I'm not sure who the audience is from this. I'm not sure if this is trying to talk to other lawn care operators and let them know about the whimsical nature and far-reaching impacts of liquid aeration to their brethren, or if this is meant to go to their customers to talk to them about why they should choose liquid aeration. But without further ado, we're looking at Yard Dogs, and they have some kind of, I can't remember, it's called The Dirt Life, I think is the name of the channel. So let's watch Cheeser here. Look at that.
He is happy.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Dirt Life channel. Today we are going to be talking about liquid fall aerations. My name is Nathan Tobias. I am the operations manager here at Yard Dogs Lawn Care.
All right.
And today I really just wanted to talk to you guys about the pros and cons of liquid fall aeration. All right, so what is liquid fall aeration? Liquid fall aeration is basically a organic substance that we put into our spray tanks and we spray it onto.
Are you sure it's organic?
We don't know that. What I am concerned with, though, is that Nathan is recording this video from the 6th grade cafeteria. All right, let's continue.
Doesn't it look like that, Ryan? Doesn't it? I mean,
is that brick? Is that real brick or is that brick wallpaper? That's really what I want to know. I just want to.
Well, it's the same question. Is that really cheese that's in that little cup that you got the red, knife for to spread on the crackers? It's hard to tell. All right, let's continue, Nate.
And a simple analogy for this would be kind of like conditioner for your hair, is very much similar to what liquid fall aeration is for your soil. What it does is we spray it on and it actually helps soften up the soil and increase root growth and basically help your grass become much stronger, much greener while softening up the soil. We have humic acid with fulvic acid, ammonium lauryl sulfate, and nitrogen. Those are the three main ingredients that are in the liquid fall
at all. Good job.
Aeration.
Man,
and it's quite simple. Basically, soften up the soil, allow more nutrients, air, and oxygen to penetrate.
How much softening of the soil are we going to get? That's like the fourth time you said the word soften.
Soft, baby. It's got to be soft.
Like Charmin?
Oh,
Like
More like
quad.
something else, Ryan. More like something else.
Hey, Ray. Those aren't pillows.
that's
your ball.
The reason we use liquid fall aerations here at Yard Dogs is because, firstly, it is extremely cost effective for us. The technicians are able to do $3,400 a day, $3,500 a day.
Okay,
dollars.
So dollars. So
Chaley,
this is
I'm
where
so
I think
glad you don't talk like this.
This is where I believe he's talking to fellow lawn care operators. Okay, so he's not wrong, and this is why you're seeing people gravitate towards this, because there is a production issue where you can make a significantly higher production rate. And I don't know about I done the math on the margins, right, of this versus say just
humic and fulvic acid, sodium lauryl sulfate, and a little bit of nitrogen. Yeah, the margins are rock solid. Lord have mercy.
So, with that being said, let's listen. And I'm trying to think, and I will think as Nathan continues to talk, if there is such a thing as a highly productive application that is not only good for the customer but also good for the turf. If there's such a thing that exists,
I can think of a couple, Ryan. I can think of a couple.
Okay.
And it ain't a liquid mix of surfactant, humic, and fulvic. This guy is missing the mark. And this is a case where I would be right next to Travis Shaddix tearing him a new one.
Oh, I had to put that together. Yeah. I think you two would tag team up on this guy, and he would walk away with a limp, without a doubt.
Comparatively to a mechanical aeration, it's quite a bit less. Another great benefit of liquid fall aeration is that there is no risk of spread or contamination of diseases. So here we have a big issue with chinch bugs. If you're doing mechanical aeration, you could actually pick up these chinch bugs in your mechanical aerator. Could be in those little cores. When you go to the next house, there's a good chance that it could actually cross-contaminate from lawn to lawn. The nice thing with liquid fall aerations is we actually don't have any risk of
contamination of chinch bugs.
Stop.
Vectoring chinch bugs on aeration. I'm not going to say that I know for sure. It just doesn't pass muster, though. I'm going to ask some people just to ask that.
No, however, Ryan and Matt, I am familiar with instances where mechanical aeration will spread noxious and invasive grasses. In fact, I'm dealing with that right now. Just because somebody, used an aerator, now I have a foreign grass species in a place where it has no business being. And it all came from the tines of the aerator.
I could see that. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Chance really of there being a spread or contamination of diseases or infections in your lawn. So that's a really huge benefit for us here. The one last thing that's actually super great for...
Just a thought. If we're taking care of the lawns that get the aeration treatments, should they have chinch bugs?
I hope not. However, if this is in a lot of parts of Canada, hang on, Ryan. If this is in a lot of parts of Canada, if a lawn has that type of an insect or a disease, you are in fact SOL, because you cannot apply any kind of effective pesticide to a lawn in many regions in Canada. No pesticides.
Yeah, I mean, it's like trying.
It's like Canada has chinch bugs.
Canada does. Ask Looney. Ask Looney. It's there.
You're right. They're there, and the chances that you're going to be able to, that you're going to get it and be able to take care of it are nil. I mean, it's like trying to take a shit in Tijuana. Like, there's going to be scabies on any toilet seat out there. You got to be careful. There's only so much you can do, though. Call lawn dogs. I guess. Whatever, turf dogs, whatever. All right,
dirt life.
Let's see here.
Liquid fall aerations, and this is my favorite, is production numbers. A guy can go out in the field and he can do 40,
Pause.
45, 50
Sexist. Continue.
houses a day on liquid fall aerations comparatively to a 15 to 20 houses a day on a mechanical
45
aeration.
to 50
All
lawns
right,
a day.
so
Let me just say right now that is an impressive spray day. I don't care who you are. If you're doing 45, 50 lawns a day, you are shitting and getting it on a whole different level. I would highly question the quality of the application at that rate. But
Or square footage.
For sure.
Easy.
For
square
sure.
footage. I mean, even zero lot lines. Like I say, if you're doing 1,000 square feet, just front
Zero
yard
lot
building,
lines, Matt,
you could do that.
and also if all of the houses that we're living with are all in, because I remember seeing the HE, 50 houses in 4 hours. My kind of equipment, though.
Cutting out Ray, but I think he said 50 houses in 4 hours, which is, again, you get the right property. I could see it. And we'll say you're charging, 50, 60 bucks an application. That's
For sure.
2,400, 70, 80, $100 an application. Now I'm saying you're $5,000 a day. It's just chucking it out.
And that's all with the houses conjoined, though. With houses conjoined there. I don't imagine it if the houses are separated and then you have to go through the neighborhoods and the traffic because all of the sites are separated. I mean, it's smoking crack if you think he 51 day. No.
One of the pros of liquid fall aeration is that there's no mess. You spray it on the lawn, you get in, you get out, there's no cleanup, there's no little cores all over the lawn.
I'll give you that.
It's simple and clean. Secondly, the other benefit is that it doesn't actually open up any holes in the lawn for weeds to germinate, which is one of the negative side effects of a mechanical aeration. So when you go and you spray on the lawn and you're not poking any holes in the ground like a mechanical, there's no chance of weeds to germinate. So that's another benefit. Thirdly, with the liquid fall aeration, you get a lot of errors or mistakes where we can damage irrigation heads by driving over them with the aerator if they aren't flagged, and that puts a lot of stress and strain on us as a company as well as on the customers. They have to go and flag all the irrigation heads, so it's really important to make sure that that's done. If it's not, there's a chance we could damage irrigation heads. So with liquid fall aeration, there's zero chance of that. We are just walking over the lawn and spraying it. Despite liquid fall aerations having many benefits, the mechanical aeration actually does have some benefits as well. The biggest thing being is it actually does open up the lawn for the chance for you to do an overseed. This allows you to go over the lawn after you've aerated and actually lay down grass seed with the high chance of that grass seed being able to germinate as it's actually filling in all those holes that you've just poked.
Time's up, it's over.
However, the one downside to the mechanical aeration is that, especially during springtime or early in the year when weeds are germinating like crazy, tons of space for weeds to germinate. So while it's great that you can put lots of grass seed in there and help thicken up the lawn a little bit, there's huge downsides with weeds being able to germinate in those holes. And the other downside of the mechanical aerator is quite simply the fact it's a massive machine. It probably weighs about 300 pounds. It is very hard. It's tough labor. It's a big, heavy, clunky machine. There's lots of risk for damaging properties, fences, decks, patio stones. You have to be super careful with this machine because it weighs as much as it does. So that's a huge downside to it. Fitting it through gates, tough, tight, narrow, sideways down houses. That makes the job that should maybe only take 15, 20 minutes, sometimes 30 minutes. So for us, mechanical aerations take up a lot of time, whereas the liquid fall aeration, you can get in and out of the house within 5-10 minutes with that hose and sprayer combination. So for us, it's just way more efficient to be using something that's super simple and effective like liquid fall aerations. All right, so as we're talking about mechanical aerators, this is our fancy little aerator rack. These are actually quite handy. They simply just mount up onto the back of the truck. This ramp here can fold down all the way onto the ground, which is quite nice. Makes storing the aerator on the back of the truck quite easy.
All right.
However, this is about 200.
Now he goes into some pros and cons here at the end, just a couple more things. But the bottom line is this: gentlemen, do we need to remind folks about, yes, can you make a good chunk of money with this? Absolutely. The question, I believe, is not one of agronomics, because we know what the agronomics say, and Matt has dutifully done a meta analysis of all the literature and reviewed it. And Matt, what did that tell us again? Can you just give a quick summary on that?
Yeah, they're all just different flavors of surfactants.
So there you have it. You know, uh, I think really, gentlemen, the question here is how important is it for you to sleep at night? It's really the only question you have to ask yourself. And I'll take it a step further, Ray, because I know that you'll go down this wormhole with me. Is
Mm-hmm.
do you even really need to do it? And again, this gets in the way of business because I realize there's a lot of margin, there's a lot of money wrapped up in aeration overseed or this practice or whatever. It's hard to say no to that. And I don't know. This is one that always rubs me the wrong way because in the agronomic sense, it is a box check, but in the business sense, it's a very, very, very necessary thing to being successful.
I beg to differ because, as you know, ever since you've known me, y'all have known me. You notice how I'm very anti-aeration, right? Anti, and that is on some very high expectation turf. On top of that, right? I'm not talking about these hayfield type lawns. I'm talking about high expectation lawns kept at a very low height of cut. At no time have I ever sold those people an aeration, be it liquid or mechanical. Never. I never have done it. Instead, Matt and Ryan, do you know what I sell these people? I sell these people pH optimization. That's what I'll sell them instead of punching holes in the lawn or spraying surfactants. That's where I go with people's lawns instead. And I think that that will serve the customers a lot better than spraying surfactants or poking holes in their lawn. Because as I've always argued with the various agronomists, my biggest value for money is getting the pH right. Because everything else in the program revolves around a pH that is conducive to good grass growth. Because you know what? If you can get grass to grow, grass doesn't care if the soil is a little compacted. It'll grow anyway. Right?
It's really, really hard to understand. Again, the need in the constant need for it, but from a business sense, I get it. But yeah. So that's how they do it up in Canada, Matt. You just get the liquid aeration out there, and you send it, right?
I mean, the fat is here too. Spurgey said someone who just built a home and has, structural fill is like lawn soil. Is it going to help there? Probably not. Mechanical aeration, possibly in that sense, is going to be more beneficial. I'll say that the majority of the time when I see structural fill issues, um, again, take this with a grain of salt. By all means, do not take this as gospel. But I will normally see bigger results out of applying a starter fertilizer than I will out of applying a wetting agent. And treating structural fill for lawn care guys is the worst thing when you pull up and you see it and you're like, ugh. And then when I started applying 18, 24, 12 to it, and I feel like I had the secret weapon because it immediately just perked it up back into shape. And then I normally didn't have to worry about it again. If you feel the need to mechanically aerate, I always had good luck selling into that, aerating and top dressing into it. Again, I would typically top dress with compost. And the great thing about it was that I typically didn't have to fertilize until the fall, right? So it just bought me a lot of time to do whatever it is that I needed to do outside of running a traditional fertility program. And what I mean by that is that normally on those types of scenarios too, is that you're dealing with a lot of bizarre weeds, like for example, broom sedge. Broom sedge can be difficult to control. There's not a lot of post-emergent control options. and you got to manipulate mowing, and if it's in fescue, it's even more difficult. But what they did is it bought me time to actually go like paint weeds and shit, right? So um, I can see if you want to leverage it in that way, right? But again, I know this is semantics, and this is purely semantics, but call a wedding agent a wedding agent, and trying to pretend like it's a liquid aeration is not doing yourself a favor. I understand it's a marketing tactic, and you got to do what you got to do to make money. But in my opinion, it's intellectually dishonest, and I'll just leave it at
You know what, Matt?
that.
I tell people the truth. And you know what that truth is, Matt, that I tell people and I emphasize with people? When you get your pH in range, you will see such a dramatic improvement in the growth and the health of the grass that what you thought was a problem that needed to be solved by some kind of a mechanical practice is no longer there. How's that?
It's another way too. Yeah, I think everybody kind of has their own approaches to doing it, and it's I implore everyone listening, to try and see what gives you your biggest ROI, and then you've started to unlock it. You might run into a situation where you're in two different neighborhoods, and soil was brought in from two different areas, or one was dug out of the side of a mountain, and you're on a completely different soil type, and you might have to pivot to something else. But I think that proposes a unique situation in and of itself. Has mechanical aeration ever been the smoking gun in a structural fill situation for me? No. It's using it as part of something else, possibly, like if I was top dressing, but never just like mechanically aerating. And then all of a sudden seeing a difference that I was like, that is what that lawn was missing. I've never had that happen. All right, let's check out this week's burns.
Ooh.
So we're going to get back into geopolitics here for just a half a second, and then we're going to have fun with one of these new spin-ups that we're seeing as far as like carbon. Tackling carbon is a buzzword right now, and there's a lot of money in that space, and so we'll take a look at one of the latest and greatest efforts in that. However, I think this also plays into our headlines. And so kind of a continuation of our headlines, but you'll understand quickly why this is a burn. So this is on Indie TV World. So it looks like we're seeing a big spike in exports from Russia to India. And this is going to be for both grain and fertilizer. As we all know, there was a big, uproar around the world, rightfully so, with the invasion of Ukraine and trying to isolate economically Russia to try and mitigate or put a squeeze on their military capabilities, military production capabilities. And one of the interesting things that we ended up seeing is that with all of the exports banned into the U.S. from Russia, the one thing that we did not touch was fertilizer. And so what we have seen is a record amount of fertilizer imported in the United States from Russia as a result of that. Bizarre. Now, I don't understand it. It makes zero sense to me whatsoever. But that is one of the issues with it. One of the other things we saw too is it drove up the price of gas in Europe, and we saw those monumental gas prices out of it. And I think that was where Russia had a lot of leverage was with gas and exporting that into other European Union countries. And however, now it's kind of expanded to not just gas, but now we're seeing a bilateral trade agreement of $100 billion, up from $65 billion. And this is going to be coming through a monumental increase in the amount of grain and fertilizer that's exported into India. So not only is Russia seeing record exports into India, Russia is seeing record exports into the into the United States. And so we'll move on to the next article here. And here they're specifically talking about this. Russia shifts gas exports to fertilizers. It's time for the EU to act. And even your active here is saying like, look, this is crazy. What we're trying to decouple from the Russian economy, but the figures are startling. France imports 80% of its fertilizer needs from Russia. Its sales are a billion and a half euros a year over 22 and 23. And this is now they're also introducing a 10% export tax for increasing their profits on it. And so at first it was like gas, and then okay, now we're going to shift over to fertilizer. And now he was like, well, what are we doing? Now we're just letting in a shit ton more fertilizer from Russia, and it just 100% does not make sense. Again, this is beyond my level of expertise, and guys, I hope y'all can fill me in on something here. How does it make sense? I mean, we were poor. I've said this before, I know, and I'm beating a dead horse, but I cannot figure it out. It drives me nuts that if we're at the point where we're pouring out bottles of Russian vodka and that we're banning visa swipes and access to credit and seizing luxury yachts and all that, why are the fertilizer exports scaling higher and higher and higher? What
Very
is
simple,
happening?
Matt. Very simple. It is because in, for example, France and the United States, what happened to their manufacturing capacity due to the various environmental initiatives in both France and the United States? What happened to our manufacturing capacity for fertilizer? Where'd it go?
Well, due to the regulations, it tanked, and then with gas prices
it went away.
skyrocketing, it also tanked.
Yeah, it went away, right? And so now, talk about a horrible situation where the only place where things like ammonia are even manufactured anymore are places like Russia, because guess how much Russia cares about global warming, climate change, or the environment? Guess how much Russia cares?
All I can see is the number 0.
Yeah. See this, Matt? 0. And so here's my rant, is that what game are we playing geopolitically? I mean, do we want to virtue signal our concern for the climate, or do we want to remain economically and socially viable? Because do you know what happens next when people are starving and impoverished? What happens next when people go to the grocery store and they realize, goodness me, a dozen eggs is now $20, or my God, that box of cereal is now $15, or else, for various reasons, I am now out of a job? Because you know what I'm seeing overall with all of these initiatives? It has a snowball effect on the economy at large. Because do you know what I'm seeing in my corner of the world, Matt? Okay, agriculture got kicked out of Hawaii, right? Kicked out. But what's hurting right now is tourism. People don't want to get on a plane for 8 or more hours to get here because there is so much economic uncertainty. They don't want to do it. And you know what, Matt? I don't blame them. Because we have people where they don't know where they're going to have a job next month or not. They have no idea at this point.
It is a strange thing, right? That by most metrics, the economy is ripping and roaring. However, there does still seem to be a lot of uncertainty, right? And if you look across the board at like certain certain foodstuffs, you're going to see 20% increases. Gas, 30% increases, 20% here, 20% there. It's non-debatable. The cost of living has skyrocketed, right? And then heaven
Oh
forbid
yeah.
that you are holding a recently acquired, home loan, then your interest rates are incredibly high. So it's it's it, it's an odd thing that when you hear about the strength of the economy being on fire, having the need to cool the economy, yet there is so much economic uncertainty down at the individual level, right? At the family level, everybody's like, "Oh, well, I don't know who's feeling that right now," but I certainly don't feel like anything's on fire. That's for sure. Maybe from a
Hardly.
business perspective, it's on fire, but it doesn't
Only
seem to
if
be.
Matt. Only if you are in that favored category of business. Everybody else can go kick rocks because you need to be downsized because you are no longer a favored part of the economy. And this goes back to our many conversations about the state picking winners and losers. Right? This all goes back to that conversation about the state picking a winner and a loser. And here's what happens when there are too many losers on the sidelines, Matt. No, it's not that, Ryan. It's even better.
No.
It's even better than that because you see, one political figure getting shot at is minor compared to what could happen. I'm just saying.
Demay, voice of reason here. Why all of a sudden is all this economic activity pouring into Russia? Like, I mean, non-debatably, it is objectively true. They are the bad guys. Why are we doing this? Why is this happening? Why does this have to happen?
I think it's. I don't know. I'm not an economist, but let's say, the free market at work, right? So if there is an asset that's vulnerable, i.e., Russia, right? It's been made vulnerable for reasons. Most of what's been done to itself, for the most part. How it got there may not be by itself, but and now you've got people, countries, businesses, whatever, that see this distressed asset and say, "Hey, it's pretty bad where I'm at right now, and if I can get this stuff cheaper, faster, whatever, here's a distressed asset that we can, effectively do what we need to with it, and we don't have any conscience about it. We don't have any, social responsibility or any other piece about it. So we do it, right? It's business. That's how it's probably getting justified. It's just business, right? So I wish I knew better how and why, but
And
I think
I
also
could
that they're
see
bending over backwards.
I could see
Bending
that
over.
the need to maintain, some sort of a geopolitical, strategical, kindness between Russia and India simply due to proximity, right? Like that,
Mhm.
I can, do the mental gymnastics to kind of create some sort of scenario there, right? Um,
But not
however,
France.
yeah, not France, not the remainder of the EU, not really any of that,
United
right?
States.
When
And
you
not
when you
the
when you
United States.
turn off
No.
your nuclear production in favor of gas, and then you create this. Only other way to describe it is an energy crisis, and then all of a sudden you can't meet the demand that you previously could meet. I mean, it's odd. It is so odd, and I don't know. It'll never make sense to me, and it feels disingenuous. I'll say that.
That is basically what happens when a country is run on feelings rather than facts. That
I
in the
believe they
result.
call.
It is France.
Feelings
Go
rather than
along.
facts.
Go ahead.
And You know what? That's happening in the UK. And the United States, unfortunately, been run on feelings as facts for way too long. And now it's
I believe they call it "go along to get along."
Yeah. We'll continue to keep an eye on this because it's never going to decrease in interest to me. However, we got two more things to cover here. We have a novel fertilizer with a reduced carbon footprint, and this is called Symbiobe. And so this is bacteria. Bacteria are going to be sequestering nitrogen from the atmosphere. Fixing nitrogen, applying it to the soil. It's gonna convert all to this magic amount of air fertilizer here. So let's see. The researchers could apply even greater amounts of air fertilizer to the plants without causing other problems. Using too much inorganic fertilizer could actually inhibit plant growth, but with air fertilizer, we found we could increase application rates without causing any adverse effects in plant growth. Um, Air fertilizer contains biomass produced by the marine purple photosynthetic bacterium Rhodovolum sulfidophyllum. Pneumatics team has previously investigated whether this bacterium could produce useful compounds, including engineered spider silk proteins and natural bioplastics. As the researchers considered the possibilities of scaling up this production, they also started to think about what to do with the remaining bacterial material. And that's where air fertilizer came from. You can see a little picture of it here, their prototype air fertilizer. For now, the cost and energy uses are quite high, and that would be a key focus in improving production. We have to do a lot of work to reduce the cost and environmental impact of actually growing the bacteria, but the hope is that the process of making the bacteria would eventually produce zero emissions. But, this is one thing that I'm going to be a little careful about this. And then I posted another one that came out earlier this year. And this is corn yield responses to in-furrow biological products. And you can see the ones that were tested here. We have Launch, Rhizome Plus, Nexia, Rhizome Supreme, Accomplish Max, Blaine with Humic, Blaine, Prove N40 from Pivot Bio, Cortivas, Nutricia P, Soundag Source, Willardags, BioGrowth, Zypro, Helena, Amvac, Invigorate, and Plain Earth Agronomy Ion Strike. And it turns out none of them outperformed conventional nitrogen. In fact, none of them even met conventional nitrogen. So, all of that to say, okay, great. We've got another one in the pipeline that has a great degree of promises. However, all of the biologicals up to this point have produced a negligible effect, and that's a problem. So, when it comes time to scaling this up, I think that's where the rubber's going to meet the road, right? It's going to be the viability of the bacteria, what are infection rates, and all the other stuff that goes along with it, right? And is that actually going to be able to take the place of conventional nitrogen? And I want to make it perfectly clear: if it does, 100%, that's awesome, that's badass. I want to get in on it. I think that's phenomenal. That's the kind of innovation that I absolutely love to see kicking up out of this industry. However, I will remain skeptical just due to the context of history that we have to rely on here, is that we don't see this being effective very often, and so I'm a tad bit skeptical for the time being. So anyway, we'll keep an eye on that. J-Pain, do we have any mailbag?
No, but you skipped a segment.
Oh,
returns.
I've been looking at it the whole
time. There is no positive from that tonight.
Nothing. Nigeria is on the market and they are coming hard. So their fertilizer plant, the Dangote refinery, is making it to the public market coming soon. It looks like Q1 2025. They're going to make their first stock market debut. Two things is this is going to cut down on the dependence on imported petroleum products, and then also increase its rate of fertilizer production. So, and I'll say this, is that fertilizer availability in Africa has been one of the biggest issues that they run into when it comes to scaling crop production. There's a lot of farmable land there that just isn't able to be maintained simply due to a lack of access to inputs. So This is a huge monumental investment and project that has come out of Nigeria, and it's good to see that it's up and running, and then hopefully that through entering the market, they will have a little bit more liquidity to be able to bring these products into more and more of their agricultural spaces. So that's a huge win for Africa, and hopefully it shapes up to be exactly what it claims. Taking it public, there's going to be a lot of eyes that are on it, and a lot of potential foreign investment, and that's when some more extreme eyes get on it. And as long as it passes that smell test, then off to the races. Go, baby, go. Then we have SB Mowing, and if anybody's ever seen him, he's all over YouTube. He's one of those guys that walks around. He walks up to their door, knocks on their lawn. He's like, "Hey man, can I mow your lawn for free?" And it seems like a super nice guy. I mean, I'd sit down, I'd buy this guy a beer, 10 out of 10 times, no problem. A man who mows lawns for free raises over $190,000 for animal shelter that helped him with an injured cat. Spencer, out here saving animals, mowing lawns, and changing people's lives. A modern-day hero, commented one social media user who was moved by the man's efforts. Kindness is a virtue that has the power to change the world. Those who have it tend to help out anyone they see in need, whether it be a person or an animal. A man named Spencer runs a successful landscape business named SB Mowing is one such individual. He went the extra mile, started a GoFundMe for the organization that treated the feline. He raised over $191,000, helping establish and continue serving animals. He started mowing lawns when he was 11. And then he ended up building a successful business by the time he completed high school. So far, he is absolutely killing it on social media. I would say his social media impact is 10 times larger than his business income. And that, I mean, I'm not saying that to slight him at all. I'm saying that's how effectively he's capitalized on social media. He's very, very good at it, and he found a niche, and he's done awesome. Anyway, he found a cat that had a wound underneath her leg. Not really sure what happened. He said on his YouTube, he added the cat was not scared of the loud noises of the leaf blower, even though he even let Spencer pet it. He later realized that the animal was limping, so he called for aid. And after several calls at different places, finally a cat sanctuary agreed to help. They specialize in caring for him. They gave the cat antibiotics to treat the infection and medicine to clean any maggots or worms before being sent to a bed. The staff at the center also gave the cat some food. The injury likely happened with a fight with another male cat or dog, and that the wound had become infected. Anyway, Spencer helped out this animal sanctuary, and they raised a shit ton of money for him. So good on him, good on this kid. Keep up the good work and stay out there and giving back to the community that gave you an opportunity to be able to turn what you enjoy doing into a successful business, sir. So kudos to you. A round of applause indeed. Anyway, all right. Now we're done with our returns. Okay, we are going to go hang out with our patrons. We're going to let them pick the title of the show. Again, if you're into the content that we produce, be sure to check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/burn return. We're nice, we're kind, but we're assholes. We're not scumbags. How about that? We'll leave it at that. And if you decide to enter the Discord and the dark web, then you'll find out exactly what that means. Till then, on Wednesday, we will catch y'all on the flip side. But